Welcome to the Alain Guillot podcast, where we speak about personal development and entrepreneurship. This is episode 166. Today, we are having a conversation with Ken Rusk. Now, let me ask you something. Do you think it is possible to become a millionaire with a blue-collar job, to become a millionaire without a college education? Well, that's the topic of our conversation today. Ken just wrote a book, Blue Collar Cash, and he's going to share with us how he did it. Ken, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Ken, can we start by you telling us a little bit about your background? How did you get started in this journey of entrepreneurship?
Well, I can tell you that what I ended up doing and what I still do today was probably about 100 on a list of 100 things that I thought I would be doing. I mean, all kids grow up and they want to be, race car drivers, or they want to be sports figures, or they want to be some type of adventure seeker that they can do for a living. And those are all really cool dreams to have. I think the practicality comes down to, when you want to get your first car and when you want to take your girlfriend out for pizza, or, you want to put gas in the tank or something like that. The reality sets in, and you do what you got to do to make that happen. Fortunately for me, there was a fence that connected my high school to some businesses just to the side of the building. And there was a hole in that fence that we used to walk through to get to the corner store where we would hang out after school. And on the way to that carryout, I would pass these businesses that were always bustling, and they had a lot of energy and a lot of people running around. And I always wondered what was going on inside those buildings. So one day I walked in and I said, "What's happening here?" And they said, "Well, we do construction work. We dig a lot of ditches and we do that kind of thing." And I said, "Well, I can do that." I was young and I was strong, and I thought I could do that, and I needed some money. And so I went in and I started digging ditches for a living when I was 15. And that continued. I did a lot of different jobs. I did landscaping jobs, and I did a lot of different things growing up. And it was a great job for me because I could do it in the summertime, and then I could work in their office in the wintertime after school. So it was kind of fun to learn the whole part of the business. And I made money doing it. And once I figured out that I could get what I wanted for my life out of working, then I kind of hung around for a while. I've been doing it ever since. So.
And how do you deal with the social pressure when you decided not to go to school? I mean, society wants you to go to school. Your parents probably wanted you to go to school. Your school friends wanted you to continue going to school and get some kind of degree. And, there's this stigma against people who don't finish or don't go to school.
Well, I think you nailed it just now when you said social pressure. My family wants me to go to school. My teacher wants me to go to school. Society wants me to go to school. Well, did anybody ask what you wanted? Okay. I think what's really important is that we all make that decision for ourselves. And part of the problem is, you can't take everybody and put them to college, because if you do that, who's going to build our houses? Who's going to build our roads? Who's going to do the things that we need to do in a blue collar world to make our earth revolve, So it's one of those things where I recognized early on that for me, the blue collar career was a way that I could control my own income. And so I stayed with it because I could get promotions and I could rise up within the company. And each time I did that, I made a little more money, and then I could get the things I wanted for my life. So it was a pretty easy decision for me to take that path. And I'm just really glad that I did, because I've been doing it now for almost 4 decades. So, Elaine, I have to tell you, for me, it was pretty simple. My father was a blue collar entrepreneur as well. Although he never wanted that for us. He wanted to make sure that we went out and went to college and got our degrees and did what we needed to do. However, when he recognized that one of the things that I could do was to go out and help create new companies, we started opening up new companies for the construction firm that I worked for. He thought that that would have been a pretty good lesson for me, because I got to go open companies in other cities and states and learn some pretty valuable lessons that way. So I kind of was able to practice becoming an entrepreneur with somebody else's money and somebody else's company, which is always pretty nice. And again, I think you have to recognize that, we always talk about the laws of supply and demand. And if you put everyone in a position to go to college and no one in the blue collar fields like the trades or skills, those kind of things, well, then you upset the apple cart when it comes to supply and demand. And everybody knows where supply is low and demand is high, that's usually where the money goes. So that's why these careers are so lucrative, and not many people recognize that.
And Ken, in spite of all your success, didn't you regret not going to school?
No, I didn't. And I can tell you why. I have a lot of friends that are contractors and they do very well. And when we sit around and talk about that particular subject, we all kind of smile at each other and say, well, you know what? It worked out okay for me, worked out okay for us. So sometimes I think when you're painting a picture of what you want your life to look like, your version of comfort, peace, and freedom, which is what I write about in the book, if you have that picture clearly made for yourself, and then you find a way to obtain that version of your best life, it sometimes doesn't always matter how you get there, as long as you do. Nobody who sees what I've accomplished or comes over to my house or sees what I'm doing, whether it's at the golf course or at the racetrack or whatever, none of those people come up to me and say, hey, where'd you go to school? What they ask me is, what did you do for a living and how did you get to this place? And that is really the most important part of the conversation. I really think the stigma that we put on blue collar jobs is a gold mine for someone who wants to go in that direction, because again, it keeps a lot of people out, which creates a demand problem. And again, that's where the most lucrative opportunities end up being.
And being that there is such a great diversity of job opportunities out there in the blue collar sector, how does one decide what to do? I mean, the same question will apply in the white collar sector. How does one decide what to do? But we are more used to dealing with that decision. In the blue collar sector, how will you go around it?
Well, I look at it this way. I think that inside of every one of us, we truly know what we can be good at, and only we know that. I think there's a great opportunity for somebody like that to go out and explore different opportunities. The job market being what it is, it's actually a employees market right now. I mean, you can go out and find lots of different jobs and try lots of different things. And I just have to back up a second, because I'm not an anti-college guy as a totality. What I am is I'm an anti-college is for everyone guy. I mean, obviously, if you're going to operate on the human body, or if you're going to manage money for someone, or you're going to teach, or you're going to engineer a building, you need to know everything that you can to make that thing work and work properly. But if you're just going to school just to go, I would encourage them to look at some other fields, some blue collar fields, something that they might enjoy doing. I mean, you never know. They could end up being great. I know this sounds crazy, but I've interviewed a lot of women, and I've had some great conversations. Women who are welders, they own their own bakeries, they own their own flower shops, they are working in construction, they own trucking companies. So I mean, there is such opportunity for women to enter some of these previously known as men-only fields right now, and every industry is such as they're starving for people, so they can find great opportunities and make some good money doing that. There was a good book that was put out called The Outliers, and in that book they talk about how you can master almost anything in 8,000 hours or more. Okay, so if you look at it this way, let's assume that you're going to college and you're going to go for 4 years. Well, a year's worth of school is about 2,000 hours, 40 hours a week times 50 weeks. So if you multiply that times 4, that's 8,000 hours. Now, the difference is you actually paid them for those 8,000 hours. If you had not gone to school and you had gotten into a trade, you could master that trade in 8,000 hours. The only difference is they're paying you to master that trade. So you literally have thousands of hours swing from one path to the other path, but you also have at $50,000 a year for college, you have about a $400,000 swing from paying them to you getting paid. So you really have to consider that. And I really believe that with the opportunities that are out there in the world today, there has never been a better time to learn a trade, learn a craft, learn a skill, and then in 4 years, go open your own company. There's the barriers are so short to opening your company now that that opportunity exists for almost anyone willing to do it.
And what can you tell us about job satisfaction in regard to a blue collar job versus a white collar job?
Well, there's something there. There's 2 points to that. Number one, I think when you talk about the value of work, okay, they talk about the fact that 47% or less of white collar workers are satisfied with their job, where it can be as high as 80% in blue collar workers. And one of the reasons for that is the second thing I was going to talk about, which is you have that sense of satisfaction at the end of the day that you actually created something. You know, when you are in control of your own output, you can see the things that you build. You know, you can wire an entire house and turn the lights on. You can create machines that move and work and are energized because of what you did. And you get to stand back at the end of the day and look at that and go, wow, look at that beautiful landscape that I did where I wired out the outlets and now they plugged in these lights and it's beautiful. And you get what I call a stand back or a step back moment where you get to be really satisfied by that entire process.
Can you tell us how you grew your business to a multi-million-dollar business with hundreds of employees?
Well, it all kind of started with the replication of my output. I knew that if I had a shovel in my hand, I could do so much work in a day. I knew that if I was building a retaining wall, that I could do so much work in a day, or if I was planting trees, that I could do so much of that. And then I thought to myself, well, if I can do this amount of work, then why can't I replicate myself and have someone help me do that? So I ended up working within this organization, learning how to run a company for myself. And then eventually, after practicing opening up other companies for the main office, I ended up going out on my own and starting my own company. And I think the important thing there was I wanted to bring along a lot of people that were like-minded like me, where I could say, listen, I can't get what I want, nor can this company get what it wants until you get what you want first. So please come aboard. Please help me do what I need to do to get this company moving, and you will be rewarded with the life that you want for yourself. So I look at it this way. If you start with 2 or 3 people, we now have over 200. And there's a lot of people in our organization that are getting the life they want by working with and for our company. And I think that's the important step is to make sure you find something that can get you the things you want out of life. And then you just have to replicate yourself over and over until you get to the level that you want to achieve.
I also see from reading your book that you have become a sort of a life coach. I mean, you not only employ and empower your employees, but also you help them along with their life problems. You are, I can call you a life coach for your employees.
Yeah, when you hire as many people as we hire over the last 30 years, you tend to become a life coach whether you want to or not. And I actually enjoyed it because I could help them establish, their first credit cards or get their first apartments or their first checking accounts, their first 401k investments, maybe their first car. And I kind of coached them into, trying to figure out what they want in their life to look like and then going after it. Well, after you do that for so many years, it becomes very successful and you have a lot of people that have been around you for a long period of time. At one point, I was writing a letter to my daughter about what I thought was important in life. And I put that in the book under the heading Comfort, Peace, and Freedom, because I thought those are the 3 most important aspects that you should be chasing after in your life, if that's how you want to put it, and living a life of anticipation. So the more I started writing that letter to her, and the more this coaching thing kept coming at me from my people in the office, the more the message, it was told to me that I needed to get this message beyond the four walls of my building. So I started writing down notes and notes and notes, and pretty soon I had 10 legal pads full of handwritten notes and 80,000 words. And then at some point, I found an editor, and a publishing company picked it up. And it's been a great ride so far. The book called Blue Collar Cash, and it came out a couple of weeks ago. And I encourage anyone to go read it. I think it'll be very helpful for them on their own path to the life that they want.
Can you tell us about the process of writing the book? I mean, you are a person who you are used to having in your hands a shovel, a power drill, maybe driving a tractor or some heavy machinery. You are not a person who is used to having a laptop or writing down ideas. So can you tell us how that developed?
Yeah, I'll never forget. I was on an airplane and I was writing really fast on this piece of paper. And the gentleman sitting next to me said, "What are you doing?" Because I kept shaking my hand because I was getting tired. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I think I'm writing a book." And he said, "You're handwriting a book?" So yeah, I wasn't a very good typist, so I hand wrote the whole thing. But I think that's a great question. For me, I felt like if I could help people within my company, why can't I try to help, younger people or even people in their 30s and 40s who are just stuck? Why can't I help them kind of get unstuck and get on with their life? So, I didn't write all day, every day. I would write for an hour or two, or sometimes I'd get lost for half a day. But it took me about 6 months to get it all done. I'd been thinking about it for a couple of years, but it's been a labor of love, and I've really enjoyed doing it.
Okay, so what would you say to people who, after listening to you, are considering a blue collar career?
Well, first off, in order for you to consider a blue collar career, you have to think differently. You have to undo the stigma, like we talked about earlier, that's attached to some blue collar jobs. So what I do is right off the bat, I try to get you to think, and I don't care whether you're 17 years old or 50, I try to get you to think better about what you want your life to look like and the visualization behind that. And that's very important, because in order for you to move forward, you need to know what that path is going to look like. A lot of times in life, people hand us an axe and they say, "There's the forest, start chopping," without any idea of where you're going. Well, I wanted people to think better first so they could figure out the path that they wanted for their life. And then I talk about stories of other people who have gone the same route that I have and are successful people, and the bumps that they had along the way and how they overcame them. There's also a lot of characteristics for the things that we all have inside of us, Elaine, all of us. And these are characteristics that we all possess. We just need a reason to bring them out within us. And I think there's a lot of roadmaps and there's a lot of paths that you can follow with this book to just get the things that you want and to make your life a little more purposeful, and even giving back and how important that is. So if you're a parent or a grandparent or an aunt or an uncle, you should read this book and then give it to someone who you think needs some direction. If you're a manager, if you're a boss, and you hire people or you manage people, you should read this book to give you and your team a really great path to being loyal team members and great workers. Or, like I said, if you're just one of those people who's kind of stuck, this book can help you get your life going again.
And once we get over the stigma of not going to school, to college, how do we choose which one of the so many blue collar careers there are, which one is for us?
Well, first off, they have to look. They have to look back through their youth, through all the years that they've been, doing things so far, and they have to look back on the things that they were happiest doing. Maybe they were happy when they were taking a walk, and so you can think about all the things that revolve around leadership or consulting or maybe working in a park setting or being outdoors. I mean, maybe that's something they really enjoy, is being outdoors. Okay, well, that's a start. Now, what would you do with your hands if you could? If you took a look at the list of 100 different jobs, are any of those sticking out to you where you can start to narrow those down? Maybe circle the best 20 and then the best 10 and then the best 5 and kind of narrow that down. And then what you can do is you can take what's called a gap year, and you can spend the summer just in immersing yourself in these different trades and skills. Everyone's willing to help you. Everyone's willing to take you on as an intern, even a paid intern. And you can kind of practice different things and see what speaks to you, because only you know what that is. And believe me, it will show itself.
Ken, thank you so much for your time. Can you tell us where can listeners find you and where can they find your book?
Okay, well, my Facebook page is called Ken Rusk Official. You can follow us there. The website is called kenrusk.com, and you can look up bluecollarcash.com when you get there. You can also look up Blue Collar Cash on Amazon and Barnes & Nobles and Indie Books and Apple Books and pretty much wherever books are sold. So I encourage y'all to go out and pick up a copy, and I hope it helps people to find their way a little bit and get the life that they finally want to have.